Hello everybody, Andrew Blake from the digitalaudiomanual.com. Today let's talk about drum editing tips in Cubase. When we start talking about drum editing tips, we can go off in a few different directions. What we're going to focus on today are some great workflows when it comes to the drum editor, and then I'm going to share some secret sauce tips with Groove Agent. Because we're going to work with Groove Agent, let's open one up. I'm going over to my inspector. I go to add an instrument track. In the instrument category, I look for Groove Agent, and then I say add the track. You can open the instrument by hitting this 3-line button, and let's load up a pre-made pattern. I'm going to go over to the folder on the right. I'm going to hit the all category. In the search, I'm going to type in cloak. It brings up the Cloak Conspiracy Kit. I'm going to double click on that. Bring my tempo down to 90. And then I'm just going to grab a pattern and bring it right into my project. At that point, I'm going to close out Groove Agent. Now if I play my project, I have a Groove Agent pattern with sounds in the project. Now, the first thing I want to call your attention to is what kind of editor you're going to use when you open this pattern up. If I leave it just like it is and I double click on it, I open this up in what's called the key editor. And a lot of times you want to work in the key editor, that's a great option. But when you're working with drums, it may not be the best option. And you can see right here, all the drums look like little squares. And they're being read basically as notes. So we're going to close this out again, leaving it highlighted. Instead, if I go up to my MIDI menu, I come down the list, I have an option here that says open the drum editor. I'm going to take that option. And when it opens up, we get something that's real similar to the key editor, but this is designed specifically for drums. And all the drums are written in little triangles. It's very easy to edit our patterns this way. Again, if I play it, you can see from this picture, all the different individual sounds are in this pattern. It makes it very easy to compare the sounds, how they line up one to the other. The first thing we want to do is set up a drum map. Drum maps allow us to do a lot more customization on the individual sounds and notes that we have here. In order to do that in this window, if we come down in this area, kind of in the middle, you see an option that says map, and right now it says no drum map. Click that list. I may have some things saved. I have an option at the bottom that says create the drum map from the instrument. And if we're using something like Groove Agent, this is a great way to go. So I'm going to click on that, and it recognized the preset of Cloak Conspiracy and did a lot of things in the background for us. Now that's all we have to do for that. Next thing I want to call your attention to, up on your toolbar, right-click, and make sure the option that says Pitch Visibility is checked. With Pitch Visibility, you get this little button over here. It looks like a house, and you can click it to turn it on or off. When it's on, you'll only see the pitches that you're actually using in any given pattern. When I turn it off, all the available pitches, in this case that are in Groove Agent at this moment, become available. And that's a long list of different sounds, various percussions and cymbals and other things that I may not be using. So this pitch visibility really cleans things up. When I turn it back on, I'm only seeing the stuff that I have sounds on. Now if I'm going to add other sounds, I can always just turn this off, add some other sounds, and then when I turn it back on again, those new sounds will be in this list as well. But either way, it keeps it so I'm only seeing the stuff that I'm working on. Now, as I've said, we want to get in here and be able to do a lot more in customizing our sound. And in order to do that, we're going to perform an option that's called Dissolve the Part. Again, if I highlight the MIDI part, and now I come up to MIDI, I can come down to the option that says Dissolve the Part. And if I click on that, I get a dialog with various options. I'm going to leave these options. Mine says Separate Pitches and Optimize Display. I'm going to hit Process. Now it's taken every one of the individual pitches and put it on its own special track, which is a great option, and I'm going to show you why. First of all, if I play this, and I start muting out everything, I turn this first track back on, and now I'm hearing my hi-hat. If I go to the next track, now I can hear the kick, and I can go through each part just like that. Other percussion, the clap, and then the extra stick hits. So now I have control over each individual part where I can mute it and do all kinds of other things to it, which we're going to do here in a second. But before we go on, the first quick tip I want to share with you, when it dissolved this part, it put the word Groove Agent on every one of these tracks. And the actual information about the sound is kind of hidden off here in the dialogue. I could rename all these individually, but that's a lot of work and extra steps I'd rather not do. So if I undo my dissolve part for a minute, and then highlight my original drum event, before I dissolve the part this time, if I come up on the info bar and I hit the option that says name up here and either hit the backspace or the delete button, totally clearing out that information. Basically, it's a blank now. It doesn't so much matter about the actual track name like it has here. What's up here in the description, it does matter. Watch what happens when I dissolve the part now. I'm going to go to MIDI, come down to dissolve part, take the same options, and now it has filled in every track with exactly what the instrument is. In this case, it says the hi-hat, and it tells me what key it's on. And it's all been neatly typed in, really organizes the tracks. And the only thing you have to do is to remember to delete the description first. So once you've dissolved your drum parts, if you look at your individual tracks, you're going to notice that there's no drum map assigned to any of them. And I prefer to leave it this way. You can create new drum maps for each one of these. I find there's a kind of a conflict in how things operate. You'll have to do your own experimentation, but my recommendation is just leave no drum map on any of these. And then what you can do is you can select either one of them or all of them. Let's select the one of them so I can show you. And then you go back up to MIDI and then say open in the drum editor. And that particular track will open up in the drum editor and you could start editing it. The great thing is, this is probably mostly a Cubase 13 thing, but with the new editor features, you can just check off what other instruments you want to show up. You can bring all your drum parts right into the editor. And then they can play there. You can edit them however you want. You bring in these little check marks to show them up or hide them. If you want to solo a different track, just go to that one and double click on it. In this case, it brought up the claps. For example, if I go to the kick and double click it, then I have my kicks right there. And again, I can go back and check the other ones off as I want and bring those right back into view. So now I have all the power of the drum editor and I can bring in whatever tracks I want to see or hide. Now you may notice right now there's no music in the background, just the drums, because I've hit this solo button up on top. Now the music comes back in. But if I hit that solo button, you only hear the things in the drum editor. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to bounce these tracks down because I want to be able to compare them later after we start customizing all the sounds a bit. I'm going to select all these tracks of my drums, go up to my edit, down to render in place and my render settings. I'm going to take the option that says channel settings. I'm going to take this option that says mix it down to one audio file. I'm going to tell it to leave my original tracks alone and then render this off. And if I play that little mix, and we'll just put that to the side for now. Now, the first option that we have, because we've taken all our sounds and put them on their own tracks, of course we can change the volume of each track, but we can also open up the channel settings for each track. We can adjust the EQ if we want. So we can make a different EQ for our hi-hats or our kick, our claps, whatever we want to do, which is already going to be a big improvement over what we had with our original drums. Now again, Groove Agent has a mixer built into it, but I find trying to work with this is just not as easy or as fluid as it is when you can just work with the individual tracks and you can add effects if you want, change your EQ and all this kind of stuff. If I go back into the drum editor, this time I'm selecting all my tracks first and then open in the drum editor. In this case, it already checked everything off, so I don't have to do that. But again, if I want to change things, I just start checking them off. But another option we have, if you have it selected on your toolbar, right-click on your toolbar, make sure the option that says Edit the VST Instrument is selected. And what that'll do, anytime you select your instrument over here, whether it's the hi-hat or the kick, let's do the clap. I'm going to isolate it for a minute. If I come up and hit this VST Instrument icon now, then it opens up the Groove Agent that I'm using just for the clap. And if I play the part, you can see it lighting up on this pad. Now the next thing I'm going to show you, I am going to challenge all of you to tell me if you've ever seen anybody else ever show you this. Now in a minute we're going to work with individual outputs, and I'm not talking about that. Lots of people know how to set up outputs on Groove Agent, but what I'm talking about is how we can set up layered sounds and then just have those triggered with one MIDI note. For example, we're going to start with the claps, and I'm going to layer up some clap sounds here and then be able to play them with one MIDI note. And the key to doing that is there's a button down here at the bottom that says use the hardware controller mapping. Now granted, this is basically designed for people that have electronic drum kits, but I say why should they have all the fun? Because there's some things we can do here by using this that really opens up what we can do sound-wise. So let me show you what I mean here. For example, we're going to start with the clap sound. So I have the clap right here, and next to it I have these other existing sounds that were loaded with the preset. But I'm not going to use any of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the pad next to it. I'm going to hit delete. I'm going to use my arrow key to move over, hit delete again, and the arrow key to move over and hit delete again. Basically, I've cleared off these three pads. There's no more sound on them. I'm going to use these to layer up some other claps. And how do we do that exactly? When I right-click on this pad, I have various options here. There's an option here that says Edit Learn the Trigger Note. And currently, this is grayed out. In other words, we can't use this option. On the other hand, if I come down and hit this Use Hardware Mapping, turn it on, and now I come back up to this pad, and I right-click again and I say Edit the Trigger Note. Now it is lit up. I'm going to go ahead and click this. And right now this pad is waiting for me to put some information in here. If I go to my MIDI keyboard and I hit E1, it immediately fills this pad in and moves over to the next pad. I can hit E1 again, and it moves to the next pad. I'm going to hit E1 again on my keyboard. Now it moves up to the top, but we're not going to go any further. I'm going to click someplace off the interface. Now you have to leave the hardware button on. If I turn this off, everything goes back to its original settings, and we don't want that. I'm leaving this hardware button on. Now I have a clap, and I have 3 empty pads. Guess what? They're all triggered by E1. So whether I hit the pad of any one of these 4, or I hit my keyboard, which I'm going to do right now, all 4 of these pads now light up. Let's get some more sounds in here so I can show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to go over to the right and hit this option that says Browser. I'm going to navigate to an area where I know I've got some clap sounds. If I come up to this little spyglass that says Search the Subfolders, I'm going to turn that on, and I'm going to hit this little A next to it that says Auto Search. And now in this category, I'm going to type in clap, hit my Enter key, and in this particular folder, it finds all the claps I have. And I can just go through these. I'm going to take this one to start with. And because I've got the pad already highlighted over here, I'm just going to double click on it. And that now fills in that pad, which is also layered with my original pad. Let's go a little further. I'm going to highlight this one. Let's find another clap. That's good enough. I'm going to double click that. Then I'm going to go to this last one. And let's find another clap here. That's a good one. Double click. Right now, it may be hard to tell what the difference is when these layered sounds are on here, because I went through that kind of quick. So let's play it, and I'm going to solo the different sounds, and you can hear the difference. And it'll be very obvious to you what the difference is. First, I'm going to solo the original pad. We have this sound. See the difference of that? Back when I first played it, it sounded pretty good on its own. Now it sounds kind of weak. Listen to the next one. Now you can totally hear the difference in the character. The next one. Completely different, right? Last one. Now we can make some changes right on the Groove Agent interface if we want. In other words, I can change the volume and the pan and stuff like that. But here's where we're going to go even further and make use of what we have available in Cubase by assigning the different outputs. When I right-click on a pad now, you also have an option down here that says Assign the Output. And there are all kinds of options here. They can be confusing if you don't know what the difference is. You have an agent output. You can go to the master. Then you have these individual outputs. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to stick with these outputs that we have, and I'll take numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8, just because it's easy to remember. So this first pad, I'm going to hit number 5. I'm going to go to this next pad. I'm going to say assign the output, go to number 6, go to the next one, assign the output, go to 7, go to the next one, assign the output, and go to number 8. I'm going to close Groove Agent down for a second and go back to my project. Now when I go back to the track, it has that clap sound. As I play the track and I turn the volume down, it no longer turns the volume down. Instead, what has happened, if I go over to this drop-down area, all 4 of those clap sounds have been assigned their own specific output, and the outputs have been named with the samples. Now we can begin really dig in and customize these sounds. I just want to mention, if I go back to the original Groove Agent, where we've set up these outputs by activating the hardware controller option, there is another way to set up layers in Groove Agent on the pads. You simply drag a sample onto the pad, and you'll be given an option at the top to just add layers. You have to go to the main tab afterwards, specifically tell it you want to use layers instead of velocity. And there's times where you might want to do that, and that's an easy, quick option, but it just doesn't give you the same kind of customization that you can get with this hardware controller of splitting up the pads to their own individual outputs and their own individual samples and layering the same sound. So let's continue on here and see what we can do with this now. First of all, let's set some volume levels. Turned all the claps down. So let's start with the first one and set the level. Let's bring in the next one. The next one. That makes a difference. Let's bring in the last one. And that makes a big difference too. What if we wanted to change the EQ on some of these? Let's go back to the first sample. For the next one. Next one. Last one. I can send all of these to their own group and make some changes. Turn the volume down. Maybe I want to add an effect to all of these different samples. Put a simple reverb on here. Maybe add a little bit of saturation to the clap. And all this is being done because I have control over the individual sounds. Let's close these claps. Let's look at our kick drum real quick. I can stay right in the project if I want. Open up the Groove Agent to this track. Kick is down here on C1. Let's do what we did before. I'm going to clear out these samples, select them, delete them, Go back to the browser and look for some kick samples. Here's some kicks. Just click and drag these. I'll take this one to the first pad. I'll grab this one, put it on the next pad. The last one on the next pad. Now I forgot to assign the trigger note, so let's go ahead and do that. I turn on the hardware controller option. Right-click on the first pad I want to change. Say learn the trigger note. Then on my keyboard I'm going to hit C1, hit it again, and hit it again. And that's it. They're all assigned. Click off the interface. Now when I hit C1, I'm hearing all 4 of these different kicks together. And I can do the same thing as before, even use the same outputs as before, because in essence this is a whole different groove agent. Let's go up to the output and we'll use 5, 6, 7, 8 again. Output 5, go to the next one, go output 6. The next one hit output 7. Last one, output 8. We'll close groove agent down, open up our outputs. We can see we have all the different outputs assigned. Right away, I'm going to go ahead and assign a group to these so I can control them all at the same time. Here's another quick tip if you don't know this already. I'm going to open up just one of these channels. Then I'm going to shift-click to select all the other channels. And if I hold Alt and Shift together and go over to the fader of this channel, pull down all of those faders at the same time. Makes it real fast to do your initial mix. So let's go ahead and mix them back in. Do my EQ and volume all at the same time here. So let's add in this first kick. Let's do the next one. Let's do the next one. That in some low end. Do the next one. I could go further and add some compression to each of these kicks, but we'll just keep it simple today. And then I can go back to my kick sample group, change the overall volume if I want. Maybe take my clap down a little bit. And I could just keep going. It's like you could when we're doing mixing. But let's bounce these drums down now and see what we have. Like my events, this time I'm going to do an audio bounce. I'm going to create a different audio track, export it. Now you be the judge of, even with just some basic changes like that, what we wound up with from our original to what we have now. Here's what we just mixed. And here's our original. One sounds like a drum machine in its very raw form. One sounds like some drums that are starting to approach what would happen if you want to actually do a professional production. Let's listen to them again. Here's the original. And here's the new stuff. And one last thing I want to mention as we wrap this all up. The real beauty of all this is even with this high level of multi-output, layered up sounds, in this case the kick drum and the clap, all these different effects or EQs, all this stuff happening on these drums now, you can simply go right back into our drum editor and select these tracks one last time, tell it to open up in the drum editor. And for example, my kick drum, let's go ahead and isolate that. By just selecting my drumstick, I can add extra kicks in here. I can erase the kicks. I can move them around if I want to. And I don't have to worry that I have 4 different layers of different samples on these kicks. Everything is under the control of one single MIDI note in this drum editor. So take those tools and put them to work for yourself. Go have some fun and create some great sounding drum tracks. All right, it's going to wrap it up for today. As always, if you haven't already, click the link in the description of this video to learn how you can get access to the all-new Digital Audio Manual Preferred. It's the clear, step-by-step solution showing you not only the tips, but all the secret and typically never talked about features that'll take you to a higher level of using your software. If you've been searching for an all-in-one solution to take you from start to finish and learning Cubase and Wavelab and other music software, this is exactly what you've been looking for. So click on the link in the description and come and be part of the clear path to a better learning experience. So today we explored some of our drum editing tips. We began by loading patterns, compared the difference between the key editor and the drum editor. We set up a drum map, learned about pitch visibility, learned how to dissolve the parts, delete the description, and the solo instrument options in the drum editor. And then we went deep with learning how we can actually customize our sounds, layer up some of the pads in Groove Agent, and take everything to a little bit higher level with all of our overall drum sounds. And we'll continue to explore all these different features and functions in Cubase. As always, it's great to have you guys here, and I'll see you on the next video.